What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao, bringing you the latest news this Sunday afternoon. Taiwan's top government watchdog body has censured a university down in Tainan, where an associate professor sexually harassed students for more than a decade. Louise Watt reports.
At this university in southern Taiwan, 5 students had accused an associate professor of sexual harassment, starting in 2007. But the teachers, they told, failed to report or investigate the case. And now, years later, the government's supervisory branch, the Control Yuan, has censured National Zhonggong University for their slow response.
学校没有及时阻断，然后让这个教师这几年陆续伤害了不少学生。只是了解，但了解就没有真正的做成调查小组，也没有对这个老师做校园性平法等等的一个程序处理。
The university says its security department only received reports of sexual harassment in 2023 and then found the allegations to be true. It suspended the associate professor, whose surname is Jian, for 3 years.
可能有一些老师其实不太了解法规的规定。其实这几年来，我们在新的主管上面的时候，我们都有进行这个性别
The Control Yuan has urged Taiwan's Education Ministry to oversee the university's handling of gender equality issues to make sure students are protected. The ministry has now told National Zhonggong University to consider dismissing the man in question, rather than the current 3-year suspension. Eason Chen and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
One person has died despite a Coast Guard rescue attempt near Taiwan's outlying Matsu Islands. Taiwan's Coast Guard responded to a Belize-registered oil tanker that had ran aground and was taking on water. While working to rescue the 8 Indonesian crew members, one fell into the sea and was later pronounced dead in hospital. Authorities are investigating the cause of this incident and working to contain any oil that is spilled from the ship. North Korea has tested another missile and issued a warning to the United States just a week into President Donald Trump's second term. North Korean state media says the underwater-to-surface cruise missile flew 1,500 kilometers before hitting its target. The test comes just weeks after the country claimed to have successfully tested a new hypersonic missile. State media reported that the missile launch was a response to joint military exercises conducted by South Korea and the United States. Meanwhile, U.S. President Trump has said that he intends to re-establish dialogue with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Hamas and Israel have released a second batch of prisoners in the latest exchange as part of their ceasefire deal. Harrell Hughes reports.
Heartfelt reunions across Israel and the Palestinian territories as hundreds of prisoners are released, part of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. In Gaza, Hamas militants released 4 female Israeli soldiers to the International Committee of the Red Cross, returning to Israel and reuniting with their families after 477 days in captivity.
אני אוהבת אתכם, כל אזרחי מדינת ישראל שתמכו במשפחות שלנו ועטפו אותם, ולכל חיילי צה"ל שעשו הכל בשבילנו. שיהיה לכם תודה רבה, אני אוהבת אתכם.
In return, Israel released 200 Palestinian prisoners to cheering crowds across the West Bank and Gaza.
وللأمانة الفرحة كبيرة وعارمة، بس ولكن يعني الفرحة منقوصة لأنه لسه في إخوان ورانا كثير في الأسر، والله يرحم الشهداء في غزة ويشفي جرحى في قيد الأسرى كلهم يا رب وقد أحسن.
But shortly after the exchange, Israel accused Hamas of reneging on a part of the deal, and in retaliation, refused to let Palestinians cross the border into northern Gaza, where hundreds are gathered, waiting to return home.
Hamas failed to meet its obligations to first release Israeli female civilian hostages as part of the agreement.
The planned exchange was the second since a ceasefire began on January 19th, part of a precarious and temporary deal after 15 months of negotiations. The next prisoner swap will take place in another long and tense 7 days, as families across borders wait for those held to come home. Chris Ma and Harrell Hughes for TaiwanPlus.
The Pacific island nation of Palau is battling a surge in organized crime involving Chinese nationals. Its leaders say this is part of Beijing's intimidation attempts on the country. Rick Laut reports from Palau.
An uneasy wait for their long flight home. These Chinese nationals came to Palau as tourists. Now, they're being deported from this popular island destination, arrested for allegedly running an online scam ring from a Chinese-owned downtown hotel. The latest in a slew of organized crime cases here involving people from China or the PRC.
I would say all of the suspects that were arrested are PRC citizens, and the suspects from the other cases are all PRC citizens. It appears that PRC is sending their folks over here to Palau to work in these online scamming centers.
As he begins a second four-year term, the country's president, Surangul Whips Jr., is cracking down on organised crime, acting on a list of foreign nationals to expel. Most on the list are Chinese, suspected of involvement in illegal drugs, money laundering and human trafficking. Whips believes it's part of China's attempts to intimidate his country.
Well, we definitely see an uptick in organized crime coming into Palau. Whether it's the online gaming operations, we've had a record number of drug busts at the airport of Chinese nationals bringing in drugs. These are all issues, I think, that help weaken us as a nation.
Situated in the Western Pacific between the Philippines and the US territory of Guam, Palau says it is no stranger to Chinese tactics. With China as its biggest investor and source of tourists, this small island nation has already gone through rounds of economic incentives and punishments from Beijing, especially because of its relationship with Taiwan. With a population of only 18,000, Palau is one of just 12 countries around the world to officially recognize Taiwan, a self-ruled democracy that China says is part of its sovereign territory. High-level Taiwan officials, including the country's president, have been hosted here, visits that Beijing has made it clear it's not happy about, preferring that Palau cut ties with Taipei and instead establish official diplomatic relations with Beijing. Over the last few years, Palau has been hit by suspected Chinese cyber attacks and regularly records Chinese research vessels entering its exclusive economic zone. The Chinese Communist Party rejects allegations of using organized crime for coercion, but many see a pattern in this region.
Chinese organized crime is not a standalone enterprise about which the Chinese government knows nothing, but it very much is part of China's effort to assert itself, to establish its influence around the region and also around the globe.
Experienced in combating Chinese intimidation, Taiwan has been helping law enforcement here, sharing intelligence and lending manpower to investigations, already leading to arrests of suspected scam ring leaders and money launderers. Refusing to succumb to pressure, these two island nations share a common threat, as well as a determination to decide for themselves who to be friends with. Alex Chen and Rick Laut in Koror, Palau for TaiwanPlus.
The 2025 Asian Winter Games are set to kick off in Harbin, China next month. Our reporter Sandy Chi went to see how Taiwan's national men's ice hockey team is training for the Games, where they will start their campaign as definite underdogs.
Speed, power, and determination. This is Taiwan's national men's ice hockey team, gearing up for the Asian Winter Games that will get underway in Harbin, China next month. The 20 players, aged 19 to 35, are set to face off against some of the top teams in Asia, including Kazakhstan, South Korea, Japan, and the host, China. Realistically, Team Taiwan does not expect to win any medals, but they are aiming to gain valuable experience, as well as earn the respect of their opponents.
我希望这些年轻球员可以学到，看到更高 level 等级的球队怎么打球，然后给他们更多的启发。因为我本身也是在15年前参加这个比赛的时候获得一些启发，然后进而我也到国外 才有机会到国外打球。3打2，你在射这种球是什么意思？要快一点，换快点，你们要专心一点。
The national men's ice hockey team was formed in 2007 and currently ranks 40th in the world, behind Asian countries that have the advantage of having more snow than subtropical Taiwan. Team captain Ling Hongru has been playing ice hockey for almost 2 decades. Ling says the sport is not that popular in Taiwan, and the government does not devote enough resources to its development.
我们只有一个标准的小巨蛋，那还有其他的项目，像花式啊、竞速、像冰石湖等等的，就是冰雪项目的都会用同一个场地。那在场地分配的话，我们用的时间就也有限。
Currently, the national team has access to the venue for just around 2 hours per week, with some players traveling long distances from other cities to attend training sessions, including Captain Ling.
我还要从台中上来台北，那我这样来回开车就会4个小时。但是就是因为为了这个目标嘛，所以就是要努力，对，那慢慢去适应，但不能说不影响，一定会有影响。
Despite the challenges, Taiwan has seen the sport develop over the past 10 years. However, there's still a lot of work to be done.
那我们是希望说，再有一座冰场起来，可以再培育更多的冰球选手。那可能希望在5年之内，希望把我们的成绩，把跟中日韩这些成绩拉近一点点。
But despite all the challenges, these players are determined to do what they love and shine out on the rink in Harbin, and win kudos even if they don't win their games.
会遇到这4个亚洲冰球的强国，那我觉得不论结果如何，就是我们想要赢得对手的尊重，对，因为在世界排名真的落差比较大，但也很荣幸能再遇到他们。我们想要看一下，同时也是挑战一下自己，看我们的能耐到哪里。
With the Asian Winter Games set to begin on February 7th, Taiwan's hockey players know they must make the most of the limited time they have on the ice. It's time for them to get their skates on and show their pluck with the puck. Valentine and Chi for TaiwanPlus.
While the rest of the world prepares for romance on Valentine's Day, flower farms in Ecuador are gearing up for bloom season. Demand for the country's famous roses continues to grow in Europe and the U.S. Bryn Thomas reports.
In the run-up to Valentine's Day, between January 18th and February 8th, things become twice as busy at Ecuador's Quito airport, as it struggles to meet international demand for their country's famous flowers.
De movimiento de carga debido a la fiesta de San Valentín. Nuestros principales socios comerciales de Estados Unidos y Europa tienen la buena costumbre de recibir mucha flor en estos días, así que se duplica la capacidad, se duplican las operaciones de aerolínea y también la producción de las fincas.
In 2024, Ecuador exported 26,000 metric tons of flowers, mostly to the US and Europe, setting records at Quito Airport. Ecuador's government says flowers and famously roses are among its main exports.
Las rosas ecuatorianas son exportadas a todos los continentes, a sitios realmente lejanos como es la Siberia rusa, como es Australia.
Workers at a Quito-based floriculture company select the tallest, prettiest roses for export. They say their size makes them the best.
De la cabeza que tiene es la más grande del mundo y eso se da porque se cultiva a varios metros sobre el nivel del mar. Esta finca, por ejemplo, está ubicada a 3,200 metros sobre el nivel del mar.
Demand for these roses continues to grow, just like the flowers themselves. Airport forecasts predict 3 to 5% growth in demand in 2025 alone. So, as the rest of the world gets ready for love, those in Ecuador's flower market get ready for boom season. Joseph Wu and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
And thanks for tuning in for What's Up Taiwan. Grab our app to get our stories on the go or visit the TaiwanPlus website for our other programs. Finally, we leave you with images of giant pandas Bao Li and Qingbao's first public appearance at a zoo in Washington, D.C. I'm Eric Gao. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a great Lunar New Year holiday.